Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? It's Curly here, and today we're going to be talking about how to budget your PC build. Now, I'm going to try to make this video fast as possible, and all links will be down below everything I say. But this is just a quick guide of how to budget your PC build in like 2019 and onward. So a lot of people build PCs and they just max out their CPUs and graphics cards, and then their PC's ugly. You know, if you want to do that for your build, that's totally fine, but this is for pretty much trying to get the best of everything. So I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so let's begin. By the way guys, I'm going off the cup right here, so if I kind of seem like a little bit off, that's why. I'm just kind of going with the flow on this one. So the PC build we're going to be doing today is a 2K PC build. I feel like that's how much money you should spend on your first PC if you're kind of like on a budget. Some people do like 1500, some people just do 1K, which we will do videos for that for another time. But I kind of thought about it, and my first PC that I ever built was around $2,000. So I have two PC builds here, and pretty much what you guys should get if you get anything from this video is how much money you should put into your CPU and graphics card. I feel like those are the two most important things here. Okay, so this is a 2K build, and your graphics card and CPU should be anywhere between 40 to 60% of your build. This is using 40% of the money that you have for your CPU and graphics card, and this is using 60%. That's why this is 800, and that's why this is 1200. So when do you use 40 or when do you use 60? Well, the easiest thing I can tell you guys is if you're building a PC build from scratch, as in you don't have a monitor, you don't have a keyboard, you don't have a mouse, you don't have a headset, you should obviously use 40% because you have to buy more things, and buying more things costs more money. If you already have everything that you need when it comes to, you know, keyboard, mouse, headphones, monitor, you can do 60%, and that's what this PC build is here. Okay, and then if you have certain things, like you'll say you already have a monitor but you don't have a keyboard, mouse, headset, you know, you just, you know, you could take off 5%. You could do like 55% of your build for your CPU and graphics card, or you can do 50%. It all depends what how much stuff you already have and what you don't have. So that's like the one thing I want you guys to understand about this video. When you're building a PC, your CPU and your graphics card, which I feel like are the two biggest components, the two things that make and break how much FPS you have and stuff, should be somewhere between 40 to 60%. Okay, so we're going to do the 800 build first. I'm going to try to go through everything together. I'm going to tell you why I picked these parts. This is just a help out. This is just a guide to help you guys out if you're new to building a PC. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on every little thing. For instance, like motherboards, there's a lot of stuff you need to know to get the best bang for your buck. CPUs and stuff like that. I've been gaming and building PC for several years now and stuff, so I kind of just know. For instance, if I was trying to build a 2K PC right now, depending on my budgets, like this is probably similar to what I would build. So I'm not going to go in detail like you have to get this motherboard because it has this and that component. You probably need to do research if you don't know. This is just to help you out, to show you like the process. So first things first is your CPU. PCs nowadays, for instance, this is just focusing on gaming. I'm going to tell you right now, AMD is pretty much more efficient when it comes to like editing and streaming and stuff like that, but they're still good for gaming if you're just going to game, if you're on a budget or whatever. Same thing with Intel. Intel's probably better for gaming, but you can still you'll be able to stream, you could be able to edit and all that stuff. So that's like one thing you need to know about. I feel like that's one thing people get really confused about. They're like, well, AMD is like more for budgeting and multi processing when it comes to working, and Intel's more for gaming. That's pretty much what I could say. People get really confused on that, but I'm gonna tell you, for both of these PCs, you're gonna be able to edit video, you're gonna be able to stream, you're gonna be able to game. Now, what you can do with this one, you can do with this one. You might not get the same numbers, but you're still gonna be able to be, I would say, satisfied when it comes to editing, when it comes to gaming. At the end of the day, all programs run differently on different CPUs, but if you are just doing just a straight up gaming build, I would just recommend you to just look at Intel. If you're on a budget, like this PC, it's okay to go with AMD. Or if you're just going to stream or just edit, it's okay to go with AMD. Now, things may change in the future because of the new CPUs that are coming out. But yeah, both of these PCs are going to be able to do all the needs like streaming, editing, gaming, depending on what you pick and stuff. Now, if you still don't know, just you need to do research on what CPU you have. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about are CPU coolers. Okay? Oh, camera, focus. Are CPU coolers. So when it comes to CPU coolers, if you are in a cold climate or whatever, you can do air cooled if you want. I'm fine with air cooled. If you're trying to save money, you can do air cooled, that's fine. But I feel like 9 times out of 10, most people are just going to do an AIO. So that's why I picked an AIO and not an air cooler. You should just go with a 2040 rag is pretty much what you really need. You can go, for instance, in this build, you can go for a 280 rag if you have the extra money, if you have the extra space, but I wouldn't go anything below like a 240 rag unless you have like a very small PC, like a micro ATX or something like very small that you can't fit it in there or whatever. So pretty much when you are on a budget, when you are building and you only have $800, if you already used $800 for your CPU and your graphics card, I would recommend just getting something around the $60 to $70 range for the most part when it comes to AIOs. Like, you're gonna get pretty much similar performance to this one that's 120. The reason why this one's 120 is because this is a 280 rag and this is a 240 rag, and this is EVGA and they have a higher premium. And the reason why I went with EVGA is because the graphics card is EVGA and I wanted it to match a little bit, so that's why I went with that. But pretty much you're going to be able to get similar to the same performance using either of these rags, so that's why I went with them. Now when it comes to picking out a rag, like I said very quickly, make sure you pick your stars. Make sure you have 4 stars, 5 stars. Make sure, for instance, I want a 240 rag or a 280 rag. That's like pretty much the main things I would worry about. If it doesn't fit, PC Part Picker will tell you, and that's what I would do. You know, I just go to rating or I go to price. For instance, I could even go cheaper if I wanted to. So those pretty much everything you need to know about an AIO cooler. You know, keep it simple, save your money where you can and stuff. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is motherboards. Motherboards have a lot of stuff you need to know, but I'm just going to talk about simple things here. For instance, both of these PC builds, if you didn't know, we're reusing a few parts to keep it easy on you guys. And pretty much this is a black and white theme build. This one, the AMD one's going to have some orange accents on it, but this is pretty much a black and white build. So when it comes to motherboards, because this one is AMD, pretty much what you need to know about AMD motherboards, there's a few things. For instance, if you're building a normal PC, like just a gaming rig and stuff, just go ATX, save your time. Now if you already pick the CPU, you don't have to worry about this, but make sure you have the right socket, you know, AMD 4. So when it comes to motherboards, pretty much A is the minimum overclocking, B is pretty much a little bit. You can do some good stuff with B, and you know, X is the highest. Pretty much if you want the best for your buck, I would either go with a B400 motherboard or an X400 motherboard if you are doing hardcore overclock. Another thing just quick that you need to look in motherboards is the SATA. Make sure they have at least 1 SATA. I normally just do 2, make life easy. Memory slots, I like to have at least 4. You can do 2 in this. Make sure it has at least 1, 16. That's just pretty much what matters. Ethernet port, most motherboards have it. And USB headers. And that's pretty much what it is. And if you're gonna want a wireless network board, all that pretty much says it has built-in Wi-Fi. So now we have all of our motherboards that we can pick from. Those are just simple things, you know, that you should know about AMD motherboards. Okay, so let's go back here. We're going to talk about Intel next. And remember guys, I'm going to leave timestamps for everything just to make your guys' life a little bit easier. When it comes to Intel motherboards, pretty much Intel motherboards tend to have more like a lot of different genres, or I don't know how to explain it, like different versions. For instance, we're just gonna focus on Asus because they have like, see, you have like the E gaming, you have like the A, you have the Maximus, you have A, you have the Z's, you know. So there's a lot of stuff about Intel motherboards you need to know. If you are not overclocking your motherboard, for instance, if you are just getting like for like a 9700 and not a 9700K, because the K stands for overclocking, you just need to get an H motherboard. Pretty much you just need to get a H70, an H370, or an H10 motherboard, depending on what components you are using or how much performance you are trying to get. Now, if you are overclocking, you need to get pretty much a Z70, which I would recommend, or a Z90. Z90s tend to be more expensive than Z70s, but you know, they have extra stuff about them, but most of the time you're not going to use a lot of that stuff. I just recommend getting a Z70 motherboard. Another thing you need to worry about is pretty much all the stuff that I did before. You know, if you want M.2, if that's what you're going to use, just at least get one, if it lets me. Make sure you have at least 116. Make sure it has an Ethernet port, of course. For AMD video, onboard video, to me it doesn't really matter because we have a graphics card. And make sure you have your 3.0 headers. And if you want it to be wireless and Wi-Fi compatible, do that, but I doubt we're gonna find one. Like, we have a few, but like they don't even have prices on them. So we're gonna do all just to make it easier. And that's how you pretty much pick your motherboard. So I think this is the one we went for. So pretty much, if you're going with Asus, you need to do your research on motherboards and figure out what the A and F stands for. Pretty much from what I know is that A might be like the best, G might be for gaming, you know. See, this one's like the Turf Gaming Plus, this one's the A second, this is the F. Pretty much F, the different letters mean different things. For instance, one might be just solid gaming, or one like you know, maybe the A stands for audio and has more audio functions, or one is more built for overclocking. If you just go on their websites, it will literally tell you what it is. It's not that hard, but this is the motherboard we went. And most of the time, you know, if you RGB really matters for you, like, you're gonna get RGB probably at this price range of motherboards. But that's just something you need to know about motherboards. So I hope that, guys, helps you out. Make sure to leave comments down below if it doesn't, if you still have questions. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is RAM. Now, pretty much with most motherboards, you're gonna, whatever RAM you use for AMD, you're gonna be able to use for Intel 9 times out of 10. Now, there is some RAM that's are like specifically built for AMD, or it runs better for AMD. I don't know how much of that is actually truth. It could be a marketing thing, but you know, that is a thing. But pretty much whatever RAM you buy should work on both motherboards. I would recommend, when you are buying RAM, that you need at least six gigs. I feel like 8 gigs is super budget. You really want to get 16 gigs. Just save the time and stuff. When you are picking out RAM, you just need to go to the stars. I would recommend doing a DDR 3000 for the speed. You can go lower. I wouldn't go anything lower than 2400, but I recommend going 3000. And if you want to get a little bit more, you can do 3200, but I wouldn't recommend going anything higher than 3200, because then you're just kind of buying it because you have extra money, you know, or there's a certain RAM you want. So we're just going to do 300, make it easy. Now, when it comes to gigs, now most motherboards have 4 slots. If you're getting a smaller motherboard, you might have 2, but for instance, in most cases, just do 2 times 8. That's pretty much what you need. If you want to fill up all the slots, like 4 times 4, just know it's normally a little bit expensive, but if that's something you want to do, you can. But I just recommend doing 2 times 8. Make it easy. Don't pay attention to any of this. This really doesn't matter for your first build. You're not like working for Google and whatever and all that other stuff. That doesn't really matter. Timings, you don't really need to do a lot of research. Pretty much what timings are is just how fast the RAM is going to be for little increments or whatever. So if you were downloading downloading something or rendering something, if you have better timings, like your process might be like 2 seconds faster. But when it comes to gaming, to me, that really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the speed and how many gigs you get, which are 16. So you want to get 2 times 8 for 16. Then when it comes to RAM, it's literally just whatever design you want. For instance, this is a white and black build, so that's why we went with the Corsair Vengeance. Okay, and that's the same thing applying to the Intel build as well. Pretty much everything I just said. They're just pretty much, they're both using the same RAM. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is storage. Now these are both for the same storage. I did it this way to show that even if you're upgrading, it doesn't, like, storage is not that big of a deal in my opinion in some aspects. So these are pretty much for both. So when you are doing storage, if you are just getting a hard drive, I would recommend, if you just want a 1TB hard drive, just get a Western Digital Blue. That's all you really need for 1TB. If you are just going to game, you're not going to be doing a lot of content and stuff. The more terabytes, the better, obviously. But when it comes to hard drives, you either want to get a Western Digital Blue, and if you're like, well, I want more space, you know, I'm gonna do some editing, I would recommend getting the Western Digital Blue for just simple base. That's all you really need. Or get something like a Seagate. Where is it? Like a Seagate Barracuda 3TB hard drive. Now, please note, when you are buying like a hard drive, like a 1TB, it's not going to be exactly 1,000 gigs. When you're buying a 3TB, for instance, I believe like the Seagate one is actually 2,700 gigs. Just note that's how they are marketed. They're round. Don't feel like you're losing money. Well, you might be losing a little bit, but don't feel like you've been like cucked or something like that. That's just how they do it. So when you're getting a hard drive, that's all you really need to know. Make sure you have 70 to 100 RPM, which 9 times out of 10, the hard drive you pick is going to have that. I wouldn't recommend getting anything lower if you're just doing a gaming rig. And these are just hard drives. If size matters, most times your hard drives are going to be 3.2 anyways. And make sure that it's SATA 6. I like SATA 6. So that just means how much information can get passed through. You could do 3 as well, but I prefer SATA 6. It's pretty much better in my opinion. So let's go to Western Digital. As you can see, picking the ones that I recommend have everything you already needed, so you don't even need to worry about that last part. So next thing we're going to talk about is SSDs. SSDs are interesting. There's a lot of stuff about SSDs, but if you are not worried, if you are just listening to me, pretty much just click SSDs. You want at least 5-inch, which is the standard SSD, and if you go M.2, pretty much what M.2 is, it's just like, it's like a little stick, and you just fit it into your motherboard. When you get SSD, it's like old-fashioned. You put it in a tray or in the back of your PC case, and you feed a wire through it. That's all you need to know. And then hit the SATA 6, in my opinion. Do this, and then hit the M.2, and that's how you pick it. So when you are getting a hard drive, now you might be like, Curly, how much storage do I need? I'm going to recommend, if you're building on a budget, for instance on the lower end PC, even below 2K, I would recommend to always get at least 500 gigs of SSD storage. You don't need to be one of those people that has just a 250 SSD for just your operating system and programs, and then you have this SSD for gaming, then you have this SSD for video content. I would just tell you right now, from my experience, 500 gigs is all you need. Put your operating system in it. Put the main games you play. For instance, the main games I play right now that are on my SSD is PUBG and Rainbow Six Siege. I also have Apex on it. Well, I don't really play Apex Legends a lot anymore, so I might take it off. But those are just a few games, and I still have storage left over. You don't need to put every game on your SSD because you're not going to be playing every game on your SSD. And for instance, if you notice, like, you don't, for instance, for me, I notice I don't play Apex Legends anymore. It's just not my game. I don't really enjoy it. I like to play every now and then with a few friends. I'm just going to move it to my hard drive because I'm probably going to find a better game that I want to play. you know. Or if you're a streamer and you're going to play a game, like a story-driven game, you know, if you have like 100 gigs left over, just put that game that you're going to be streaming for the next 2 days on your SSD, so you have the best times or whatever, and then you can take it off once you're done streaming it, or you complete the game and your chat's all like yay and stuff, you know. Then you move it to your hard drive. That's what I would recommend. At least get 1 terabyte of hard drive space and at least 500 gigs of SSD space. Okay, that's what I can recommend. As you can see, we got 1 terabyte because we can fit it in this budget. 1 terabyte of of SSD space is a lot. You could put a lot of games and you could do a lot of stuff with it. So that's why I went with this one. But the minimum I would recommend is 500 gigs when it comes to SSDs. Next thing. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is GPUs. GPUs are interesting. I'm going to tell you right now, whatever GPU you buy is going to, like, in the same category. So if you buy the highest end 2070 to the lowest end 2070, they're going to probably perform the same, unless they are like a hybrid, which means that they're water cooled, or that's pretty much it, like a hybrid if they're water cooled. Now there is some that have mini, and there is some that have, like, you know, more fans. Yes, you're gonna have better cooling, but I'm gonna be honest, when it comes to whatever graphics card you pick, you're just picking the brand, whatever matches with your build, pretty much. Like, the minis are gonna pretty much not be able to overclock as much, but you're still gonna get, you know, high FPS for whatever you're gonna do. You know, the only thing you're buying is like for the cooler, like the coolness factor or cooling and stuff like that. For instance, you know, the Gigabyte 2 fans are gonna pretty much hit the same as the Gigabyte 3 fans. In general, you might have additional 5 extra frames, but that's pretty much all it is. Like, I really don't think if you get the lowest to the highest end one, you're gonna get more than a like 10 to 15 frame difference. The only thing is that I can tell you when you buy the lower end ones is that they might not have a back plate, and they might be a little bit more noisier. That's pretty much what it is. The higher end ones will have the better cooling because they want to overclock more. You're still going to be able to overclock. I'm just saying that because a lot of people get really confused when it comes to graphics cards, and they ask me. Now, when it comes to gaming, you really only need a 2070. I'm going to be honest with you. You don't need anything higher than a 2070 if you are gaming. I understand that some people might say, well, Curly, I want 300 FPS in all of my games. You know, I'm going to be like, yeah, if you do, that's fine. You can spend more money if you want to. But from my experience, 2070 is all you really need. You can even 1440p game with a 2070. You're not going to be able to max out every little thing, but I think you're going to still have an enjoyable experience. Now, if you want to max out everything at 1440p, get the 2080. You know, if you're one of those people, that's what I would recommend. You know, get the 2080 because, you know, I want to play at 1440p, but I want to have the highest FPS as possible, and like I want to be able to, you know, I'm going to run everything on ultra. But I'm going to be honest with you, if you are going to get a 2080, you really shouldn't be 1080p gaming, in my opinion, for the most part. I understand that you might be like a competitive player, you might be in esports, and you're like, I need to get the most FPS. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really notice a difference from gaming until I drop below 80 FPS, but I pretty much play all my games at low when I'm playing a competitive game or play the recommended like esports graphics or whatever. And that's all I can say about when it comes to buying a graphics card. Just quickly to refresh, 1080p, you don't really need to go higher than 2070. If you're gaming at 1440p and you want to max out everything, you get the 2080. That's all I can say. The reason why I went with the Gigabyte one is because like the Gigabyte tends to be the cheapest ones, and they're pretty reliable. The only problem with Gigabyte is sometimes they might be a little too loud. But for instance, this one is the 3 fans. Normally the 2 fans are a little bit louder, but this is a good one. I've recommended some 970s to 2 people, and they were Gigabyte like GTX 970s. They're a little bit old, and they were pretty happy with their graphics cards until they upgraded them, and they were more happy. The reason why I went with EVGA here is just because it just matches with the EVGA CPU cooler. That's pretty much it. I wanted to match. I wanted this one to just be plain like black. I didn't want anything else in it, like plain black on the inside, white and black. So that's why I went with this one. I could easily just got a Gigabyte 2080 in there, and it would still pretty much perform the same as this one. But I just wanted to match. I feel like people try to get everything to match, so that's kind of why I did it. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is cases. Now, a lot of people are like, well, what about airflow and this and that, blah, 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 blah. If you are my age, like 23, or if you are about to go to college, or you know you're going to be moving, pretty much if you're in your early 20s or about to hit your 20s, you don't need to get anything higher, in my opinion, than a mid-tower. You really don't. You're going to be moving a lot. Trust me, it's going to be a hassle. You're going to be, like, if you're going to be gaming in your college dorm, you're not even going to be able to look at your PC because, you know, college dorms are designed to have a desk in this area. It's the most optimal, whatever. I would recommend to just get a mid-tower. Make it easy. I see people who have full towers all the time and they're lugging it around and they're like scrawny, you know, gamer people, and it looks like they're about to break their backs, and it makes me laugh or whatever. And I'm one of those people. I'm not super ripped or anything by any means, but I have a mid tower, and so my back doesn't hurt as much. So when you are buying a PC case, first things first, just get a mid tower. Make it easy on yourself. Just get a mid tower. I'm telling you right now, you're gonna save so much time and money, and it's going to be so much easier because 9 times out of 10 from even my moving experiences, my case was right here. What, for instance, if I was in my old apartment, you would have been able to see my gaming rig. You know, the next apartment I moved, it was on the other side of me. I could even look at it. And then this rig, my PC is actually under my desk, unfortunately. I hate it being under there, but it's the only spot I can put it. And if you ever have to put your PC on carpet, make sure to put like a piece of cardboard or a piece of wood that it can, like, your PCU or whatever, to suck up carpet and explode. So when it comes to building a case, I would tell you right now, I wouldn't go anything higher than $90. The reason why I went with this case is just because we had the budget. But when it comes to me building a case, 9 times out of 10, I prefer anything under $80. I would pick, you know, these are pretty much the recommended brands. I don't want anything more than a mid tower. You know, if you want to pick colors, just note that colors can be a hassle, so I just keep them all up. You probably don't need one with a power supply. If you want a side window, just click it. You always want 3.0 headers. You want an ATX. If this is pretty much like a bay for like an old CD drives, most of the times you don't really need that. But let's say you want one 3.5, you want at least one internal just to fit your hard drives, and you want at least one. Just do that. Most of the time with most PCs, you're gonna get 2 for both. And yeah, so now we have our cases. This is what we're looking at right now. Pretty much, this is pretty much what we have, but this is the older version, I believe. So another thing I would recommend when you are building a case is that you need to know how many fans are in it. If you're on a budget, for instance, if you're buying, like, if you're building a really cheap 1K PC, which if you guys want me to do a video, let me know. I would recommend try to get a case that has at least 2 built-in fans with it, or 2 fans that come with the case. It's just easier for you. You don't have to waste your money buying more fans. You know, like something like this case. This case has at least 2 fans. I'm satisfied. But other than that, that's the only thing I would recommend about cases. If you want to learn how to build into it, just search out the case. I'm pretty sure someone has done a tech review over it or something. But that's all you need to know when it comes to building, when it comes to picking a case and stuff like that. Alright, so next thing I want to talk about is power supplies. Power supplies are very easy, in my opinion. I'm going to be honest with you. This is kind of where I try to save money. I still have golden rules. For instance, when it comes to power supplies, I would recommend not going anything there than 80 plus bronze. Now you can get 80 plus gold if you want to be more efficient, but I'm gonna tell you right now, just from experience, 9 times out of 10, if you're going to college, you're not gonna be paying for your electric bill. So there's really no point of spending extra money where you can save. Now, of course, if you're an eco-friendly person and you want to, save the world or whatever, and then yeah, be more power efficient. That's fine, but it's gonna cost you more. Never go anything below 80 plus bronze. I pretty much would recommend going to what's recommended for the GPU, just for a 2070, and it would be like 700 watts. That's pretty much all you really need. Now, I know there's people out there that's like, well, you're never going to use 700 watts, so all you really need is a 600 watt power supply. That's all you really need because you're never going to do that. That's fine. You can do that, but if your PC ever turns off because you didn't play it safe, that's your problem. You can save money like that, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. When it comes to modularity, I would recommend, if you can, try to get a semi one. Pretty much when it comes to semis, they pretty much, you can take out some wires, but you're gonna have to, some wires are gonna be built into the CPU that you cannot remove. Most of the time, those are like the 8-pin connector and the 24-pin, which you're gonna be using those anyways. So that's why I prefer semis overall. Now, if I was doing a high-end build, I would just go full, because maybe I'm doing custom sleevings and stuff. But semi is probably what you want to go. If you're on a super budget, no pretty much means that all the wires that are in there are going to be in there no matter what. They're going to be feeding power through. So you might have an extra cable or two that you're not going to be using. You just have to hide it. Full means every wire is modulable. You can take it out. Pretty much just stick with ATX. Unless you're building a smaller end PC, ATX is all you really need. And just get whatever is on sale, in my opinion. For the most part, and check the reviews. Now, the operating system, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's Linux, there's Mac, and there's Windows. Just get Windows 10 home. I know some people say, well, I want to get Pro. You can get Pro, but it's going to cost you more money. My first rig, or anyone's first rig, I just recommend them to get home. I recommend to just actually buy like the OEM one, like the actual ones. When you buy these come in a USB, and you just like download it. That's pretty much how they work. But don't be one of those people, in my opinion. Some people do this. They buy like they buy like ones that have like the built-in codes or whatever that are $20. I can't think of them on the top of my head, but they're cheaper. You can buy that and you might be 100% fine, but sometimes those do not always work. For instance, you could be using it for 2 years and maybe they catch you or whatever happens and you might get your PC locked out. So that's what I recommend. Just get the $100 one. Don't try. When it comes to monitors, I'm just gonna give a quick guide on monitors. Pretty much choose your stars. You don't want to go anything lower than 24 inches. What I recommend, if you're just gaming, go anywhere between 24 to 27 inches. That's all you really need. Pick your resolution. For instance, we're gonna do 1080p because that's where most people play. There is 1440p out there. They're gonna be more expensive. When it comes to hertz, get 144. Save your time. Just get 144. I know there's 240 hertz monitors. Just get 144 if you're on a budget. If you want to get higher, you can. But 144 is pretty much the minimum that I would recommend you for going if you're going to game. You can get 60 hertz if you are on a budget, but I would try to get the 144 hertz. Always have 1 millisecond time. Just pretty much it's fast. It's the fastest refresh rate, whatever. Pretty much when you buy on the lower end, they're going to be TN panels anyways, but I just click all and pick your resolution. For instance, yeah, just make it easier. You don't really have to mess with that. Backlights, I don't really care. Colors, I don't really care. And make sure you have a display port, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have HDMI, you're gonna have DVI-D or whatever. Just make sure you have a display port so you can get the maximum refresh rate. Next thing we're gonna talk about is keyboards. Keyboards are very complex. There's a lot of things about keyboards. You have different switches, different whatever. I personally use a Corsair one. I'll leave it down below. I have Cherry MX Speed silent switches. This is not the one I use. This is similar to it. But pretty much, you just need to read, for instance, certain switches are louder than others. Just note that when it comes to keyboards, that like a Corsair blue switch is going to be different from a Logitech blue switch. They're going to be on the same premise, but they're going to have a little bit different feel on each one. You just need to do your research here. I just like the Cherry MX speed switches for the most part because they're not too loud. They might be a little bit more spongier. They don't have like the click. When it comes to mouse, there's tons of reviews on mouse. There's the one guy, I can't think of his name. I'll probably leave a link down below, that does really good mouse reviews. What I can say about buying a mouse, just get something with a wire. If you don't want to get something with wire, it's going to cost more. If you have the extra money, invest into a bungee. Pretty much, this is what mine looks like, if I can bring it in. Mouse bungee. I'll leave it down below. This is the one I use. This is like a knockoff brand or whatever. Still gets the job done. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend spending anything higher than $60 on your first mouse. For instance, I have like the Logitech 303 mouse. This, I got it for like 24 bucks at a Best Buy. When it comes to headphones, headphones are a little bit hard to explain. But like, I'm gonna be honest, you probably don't need 1.7 sound. 1.5 is okay, but most of the time, if you're playing esports games and all that stuff, you're gonna be running in stereo anyways, and stuff like that. Just like, honestly, when it comes to headphones, you just have to look at reviews, figure out what you're gonna like. You know, that's just the one thing you have to do. I think like you have to do a lot of research if you're trying to get the best bang for your buck. What I could say is that for your first headset, don't spend anything more than $80. That's all you really need. You know, for instance, Kingston, the Stingers, these are actually pretty good. You know, they're not the best, but I'm just saying, like, if you're on a budget, they're gonna be like 40 to 50. If you get the higher end ones, they're gonna be like $80. But I wouldn't recommend getting anything higher than $80. When it comes to gaming headsets. Just save your money. So that's pretty much the vid. I hope I helped you guys out with everything. I hope this like benefits you. At the end of the day, this is just a guide to help you how to quickly build a PC and how to market. Remember, if anything, when you're getting your CPU, GPU should be somewhere between 40 to 60%. I really hope this helps you out. And if you guys have any other questions, just leave them down below, and I'll try to help you guys out. Peace out.